And hello today, you beautiful people. How are you? I hope you've having a good day and everybody's feeling good. G'day, Honest. Good to see you. And to you. Ah, how are you, Lukey? Today I'm just going to be just letting you guys know it won't be a full program as usual. It's going to be a sort of a shortened program, half the amount of time, just a bit after 12-ish, which is about an hour and 40 minutes, 45 maybe. I'm going to piss off because I've got to be somewhere. So unfortunately, it's not going to be as long. So I'm just going to plow along on my own today, and then basically fuck off a bit in about 1 hour and 40 minutes. Just letting you guys know. So if there is something urgent that I need to know, do post it early. Don't leave it for too late because it won't get answered at all. Anyway, g'day, Mousy. How are you, mate? Richard, good to see you. This is a relaxed, friendly carnivore corner. Is it? Oh, didn't realize that. Oh, with Blinky away. Yes, that's true. That's true. Where can I breathe and there is no added stress? Like the corner of a favorite coffee bar outside rush hours. Yes. Blinky's probably gone to the markets to annoy people. Oh, yes. Hi, everyone. Who was that person? Yes, that annoying person. As some people would say. What's this? Harry, heard that. Yeah, nonsense. Yeah, this is the old stuff. Oh, keto and carnivore will basically lower your testosterone. Absolute crap, you know. It's usually anything that's going to lower your testosterone is under nutrition. You fast, you basically will increase sex hormone binding globulin. It's just a normal thing, you know. It's a mechanism, you know, for scarcity. So if you're under nutrition on any fucking diet, it'll actually increase. So it's not specific to keto or carnivore, you know. I mean, you can't reproduce if you don't have enough nutrition on board. It's a normal thing, you know. This is just people that do therapeutic types of keto and, you know, some other sort of variations or very restricted feeding, stuff like that. Yeah, can have this effect, but you know, to ascribe it to a specific diet or whatever, I usually say to these people, show me mechanism. Show me the study and show me mechanism. Don't tell me your reduction is bullshit. Just show me mechanism. They can't. It usually falls apart at that stage. It's like anything. When you challenge these people to cough up the proof and show that and demonstrate the mechanism that this is happening, they go running. You know, so it's just the same old peddling and stuff like that. Yes, if you're basically on a very nutrient, you know, you're doing therapeutic keto, yeah, that can happen. But that can happen on any diet. You know, you do just fruitarian type diet and your endocrine system and hormones will be in the toilet, severely, even worse than keto. So, you know, if you don't have enough nutrients on board, well, you know, as I said, the foundation is basically micronutrients. Animal foods are more dense in micronutrients. If you don't have those micronutrients, those cofactors, a whole lot of enzymatic processes don't work. I mean, I've shown you how all these enzymatic processes, you know, the ability to bring, you know, to transport things requires certain enzymes and certain proteins. You know, if you're not getting sufficient protein, it's not going to work. If you're not getting sufficient micronutrients as cofactors, certain biological processes won't work efficiently. It's not rocket science. The foundation, as I've always said, needs to be the micronutrient. And since animal foods are more dense in micronutrients, you know, You don't get these problems. It's only when people do some keto, like they do what do they call them, the vegan keto or the vegetarian keto, or the sort of extremely therapeutic, like 90% fat and restricted protein. You know, if you're doing that sort of stuff, yeah, that'll happen. But that's a small minority that does it. And there are reasons for it, like epilepsy and a whole lot of other things therapeutic. To go and look at those studies and then say, oh, look here, these people are having these effects. Yeah, but they're doing this therapeutic form and they are nutrient deficient to some extent. And in many cases, though, the old studies were actually using seed oils. People don't realize that a lot of the old protocols that were actually the Johns Hopkins University Hospital was actually using for their ketogenic anti-seizure diets was a lot of oils and stuff like that, because it was easy to get it in and cheaper. So there's a lot of confounding issues. So yeah, just ignore it. It's crap. I usually say to these people, show me a mechanism. You know, they've got nothing. Oh, good morning. Yes, yes. How nice. How nice. Everybody's been so nice. Oh, Blinky's not here. Explains everything. Chicken and bacon soup. Ah, beautiful. Yes, yes. Wonderful. What is StreamYard doing? It's just frozen. For fuck's sake, StreamYard. Oh, now it's jumped. Oh, I'm not going to have one of those days, am I? Oh, yes, yes, yes. That's the new one, is it? The homophobic version. Vegan phobia. Yes. When I see a vegan running towards me with a carrot in hand, I get phobia. What is he doing with that carrot? What is he going to do with that carrot? Yes, I can understand. Yes, it can induce those effects on people, vegans. Ooh, Savage Harry. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, isn't he awful? Oh, he's an awful person. Yes, this person is a really awful person sometimes. Yes, yes, you're right. I agree. Let's move on. Bang on time. What's going on? Oh, fuck, he must have woke up early for once. Shit happens. Or he shit the bed, as the old saying goes. Recommended choline intake, RDI, just doesn't seem right. If you're eating, eggs and stuff like that, you'll probably get about 1 gram, which is fine. If you're not inflamed, you don't have fatty liver, you only need more than that if you've got fatty liver, if you've got some genetic reason, which is a very small minority of people like myself. The majority of people are pretty much okay on the MTHFR and the methylation cycle of things, so I wouldn't worry too much in that regard. Probably 1 gram, and if you're having a couple of eggs, a steak or whatever, you're probably getting close to 1 gram, so what's the problem? Seafood is even higher, so not an issue. But if you're hitting the alcohol and you're doing a whole lot of other things that you should be doing, Richard, and you may want to supplement just to get that fat out of the liver, yes, you do still need choline to export fat out of the liver. Unfortunately, that is the reality. And you need B vitamins also to deal with some of that detoxification. Yes, yes, yes. Lurking. Oh, kitty. Just lurking. Doing some chores and all that. Yes. The essential things that still need to be done at home. Our favourite lurker. G'day, Dylan. And Miss Tammy, good to see you here. Good morning. What's the last 2 hours of Primal Edge live this morning? That was an awesome live. I'll have to watch it later when I get in the evening. So I just don't get a chance in the morning. It's just not enough time. Yes. Were they talking about the kibble culture that's coming? Yes. we will put you on the kibble, and we will force feed you kibble, and it will be good for you, and you'll be happy. Yes. Welcome to the land of kibble culture. Yes. Yes, something to look forward to. And recommended source for taurine and choline powders for someone else. I heard they've got a pretty good taurine one. Choline ones, there's a lot of varied. Choline has to really be pharmaceutical grade. If it's not pharmaceutical grade, and best sort of country. I mean, one of the easiest ones to find around most places is in places. I'm trying to remember the German brand. There's a really good German brand. So yeah, I'll try and remember, and I'll try and post them later tonight. G'day, Raymond. Oops. Harry, is there any reason why keto would be bad for your thyroid? No, unless you're doing those sort of therapeutic stuff for, so you're really doing it for prolonged periods of time and really low. I mean, as long as you're eating a species appropriate diet and you're getting sufficient, iodine in there, selenium and those sort of things, the minerals like, copper, zinc, those sort of things, which are very high in animal foods, all these sort of things. When you eat animal foods, you don't really have a problem. I mean, the biggest problem with iodine deficiency, the thing that actually exploded iodine deficiencies from the 70s onwards, and I've said this before, a lot of people eat bread still. And a lot of the bread, they took the iodine out because it was expensive, and they put bromide in, so, or on top of that, they use bromide as an I think it's an antifungal or whatever. It's got all these properties in the pesticide industry. And a lot of people are eating plants, and they're getting this sort of stuff. And basically that's causing a displacement of iodine. Other people sometimes may be over-supplementing. And I've mentioned this before, that the balance, I think, was a couple of weeks ago, that I mentioned the balance between iodine and selenium, that you need to basically have good amounts of both of those sort of things in your diet. Where was that? Let me just... trying to find that Taiwanese site. Not that. Thought I had it here. Where's the damn link? Oh, there it is. That was the Taiwanese site that I actually... let me just share that for a sec. Share. And that was the actual Taiwanese site that... I mean, it doesn't provide an extensive list. For instance, I mean... give you an example. In my case, dairy, over 16-ounce glass of milk every day in the evening after any exercise that I've done or whatever. So that's... which is about that amount. Divide that by 100, times that by 13, you know, and then I usually have about 100 grams of cheese, you know, so that's another 13. And when it comes to, let me just see, copy that. When it comes to meat, I at least have about 400 plus a day. So let's times that by 26 plus, as you can see, there's the RDI, you know. So once you get above that level, you really need selenium to taper back the iodine, to balance out the iodine. But at this rate, you don't even need selenium that much. So it's pretty much a non-issue. But you can see very easily, you know, and that's not, you know, if I had 2 or 4 eggs, so that would be 2 eggs plus 26 plus 26. So I'm getting more than bloody enough. And the nice thing about eggs, they've got plenty of selenium as well. So, you know, and then when you're looking at, you know, this is an extensive thing, dairy and all that, I'm getting, you know, at least well over the actual requirements. So it's a pretty much a non-issue for anybody on a standard carnivore diet. It's not difficult to basically get these nutrients in to support your thyroid and all that. It's only when you start doing crazy things or avoid certain foods or whatever that, you know, in that regard. So no, it's usually basically people that are eating a lot of processed stuff and saying, I'm keto and I've got the keto bar and I've got this and I'm shoving a keto bar up my ass. You know, it's not going to help you. You got to eat real food, and real food has bound, you know, nutrients. And if you're not eating real foods and you're eating a lot of these sort of fake foods, you're going to be undernourished. A lot of people, you know, I see them doing fat bombs and all this sort of stuff and all that. And I go, why? Is there a reason to do this? So they're doing a whole lot of idiotic things. It's all fashionable stuff or whatever, or some gurus peddling some sort of garbage which they want to sell to you or whatever. So please don't do it. Please don't waste your money on it. It's not good for your health. And it's basically literally no different than the sad diet empty calories. So just don't do it. Eat real food. You know, you'll be satiated and you'll feel better, and you'll get the support, the supporting minerals that you need, the micronutrients that are required. And, you know, get out in the sun, get that vitamin D. Vitamin D is very important for the thyroid as well, you know, so, and your whole endocrine system, you know, it's a hormone, you know, vitamin D, it's not a vitamin, it's a hormone. It's required for your endocrine system to work properly, you know. So people that talk about testosterone and this and that and whatever, are you getting enough sun? Are you getting enough vitamin D? So are you getting out there and getting those early hour and late hour in the day, you know, that red light sort of spectrum, you know, that transition? Are you sort of, you know, tuning your circadian rhythms properly? There's a lot of factors at play, but diet is fundamental, but some of these other factors are at play as well. So you only have to supplement when you have some underlying condition that needs exact therapeutic approaches to sort of correct. And I am going to do that. I still haven't got around doing my friggin' disclaimer. I need to do a medical disclaimer. And then once I do a medical disclaimer, then I can put some of the protocols out there so I don't basically put myself at risk by being nuked by YouTube for being a bad boy and giving medical advice. So at the moment, I'm just actually doing my anti-bullshit videos and just demystifying like protein and all this sort of stuff. That's not controversial. That's just showing what the science has actually demonstrated. But The other one was a bit of medical advice. That's why I retracted it and put it in the private private. And so once I do that, I'm going to start doing the protocol stuff, but I'm sort of wary at the moment. Should I release those yet, or should I wait and see how YouTube craziness is going to play out, and do I put myself at risk? So I'm still thinking about a lot of this sort of stuff, because a lot of the stuff, when you start doing things like protocols on cancer, protocols on this, protocols on that, you know, the risk is that you could have your channel taken down. So it's, yeah, you've got to be very careful, and I have to sort of think how I'm going to put these together in a safe way. So you guys get the information, but I don't get it. Put myself at risk of being annihilated by the YouTubia mafia. Anyway, let's move on. Eric Berg's made a video about calcium eating sleep, maybe why people enjoy warm milk before bed. Yes, nothing like warm milk before bed. Yes. It probably does, you know. If too much calcium or too much calcium isn't really a problem, because the body will just excrete the excess. But if you've got too little, it can be an issue. That's true. It can have an effect in calming effect. So, yep. So I don't completely disagree with it. And I do have a glass of milk in the evening, which is sort of the reason for it as well. Both to get the calcium in and to basically to aid with sleep. So I don't disagree with that at all. But, you know, as long as you're not shoving a whole lot of veggies in at the same time, you're fine. Because they'll chelate a lot of that calcium, and it will never get in. Yes. Do not eat veggies with that milk. Yes. Thanks, Mouse. Totally agree with you on the coffee shop ambience. Oh, we've got ambience. Oh, great. I feel I'm in the zone. Also, Harry's finding any benefits in your light bulb setup? Yeah. Sleeping better. As long as I don't push the envelope and, you know, like last time, 3 o'clock in the morning. Not the right time to go to bed, boys and girls. Definitely not. Yes, Harry was a bad boy. So, yeah, but otherwise, yeah, it does. I have noticed a lot of much deeper sleep, no interrupted sleep. Since I put the bulbs in, I haven't actually woken up at night at all, which is good. So, actually once, but that was when I was pissed as a newt, drinking too much alcohol, coming back, and then I had to wake up to go for a piss. That's a different thing altogether, you know. But otherwise, no. Hey, g'day, Kate. Good to see you. Somebody's at the gym, and that's Kate. It's not us. We're here. I'm sitting on my ass. Yes. Anything that helps blunt the and drop neuroplasticity past the fateful age of 25. Learn new things can help. Challenge your mind. Change the direction. So if you're a large part of our brain is involved in spatial, you know, the sort of spatial cues, spatial analysis and stuff like that. When we move in an environment, because that spatial component goes back to our hunters and gatherers time. So let's say, this is what I do, and a mate of mine does it as well. He drives his kids crazy. I drive other people crazy in my family. When I do walk, I never use the same route. So I vary it. So I'll walk down and then cut through a different street, a different alleyway, and then go there. I'm still going in one direction, but I'm using different things. He does the same thing even when he's driving around and drives his kids up them. You know, they fucking hate him for doing that. You know, he goes, I don't care for, you know, a few minutes, you know, I'm just cutting in. I'm just going to do it differently. What it does is your mind doesn't get into this sort of, you know, sort of normalized mode where you're doing like on autopilot. You're never challenging your mind. So, and you can actually see a lot of people that have got really good plasticity into old age some academics and all that are still learning new things and still challenging themselves. So I think that's part of it. And I think varying your interaction with the environment, like walking, the way or stuff like that, taking a different route each time, you have to anticipate new things. And so as a consequence, you have to sort of look out for things. You've got to focus in a certain way and all that. And I think that plays a role in, there isn't any magic pill. It's sort of the way you interact with your environment and things around you that are playing a role. Hope that it makes sense to you and all that. G'day, Mandy. Good to see you here. And I just remembered I missed a call last night. Damn. I will have to apologize. Anyway, speaking of DNA, I finally got my 23andMe results, but I don't know how to look for the SNPs. If I'm a shitty methylator or something, contact me. Send me a message and I'll provide you a whole lot of links. I've been meaning to basically do a number of these videos on all these different SNPs. I've done a bit, it's like methylation stuff. If you go to the videos I did on methylation, I actually show those SNPs that are involved, so you can actually look them up. So there's some information there. I always show the different single nucleotide polymorphisms, the SNPs that are involved in those videos that I did, the earlier ones, and most of them. And then you can sort of look and see. I haven't done the choline one, have I done yet? Oh well, shit happens. Another one that I have to do. That was part 2 that I haven't done. I forgot to do that. Yeah, I'll have to do that. Try and expedite that at some stage. Can't remember everything. Must be getting old. Meat has become so expensive in Brazil. Can't afford carnivore, but it definitely feels quite a bit more expensive. I would eat otherwise. I mean, look, there's other ways of actually doing that. You can go hunting for animals. You can basically, get fat trimmings. So you can use like egg protein and stuff like that and go to a butcher and get the trimmings, the fat trimmings, which are cheap. So you can combine eggs. And remember, eggs in terms of amino acid utilization, that means the body utilizing the actual amino acids in eggs is actually 46 or 47, I think it's 47% higher than meat. So the bioavailability, that means maybe, like 100, people talk about the bioavailability of meat being 92 and the eggs being 90 and dairy being 90. But there's an important factor about the actual utilization. That means the body's, like the muscles, utilizing that. You actually get more bang for your buck in terms of protein from eggs than from meat. Meat is only 32. That includes all meats, including sea meats, seafood-based meats, and the whole lot is about 32% utilization, where it's 47% with eggs. So eggs are, as I said, they're a superfood. If I was left on an island and I only had one choice of food, it would be eggs. Simple as that. In terms of choline, in terms of all these selenium, iodine, you name it, it's got it, so that's what I would be definitely getting. But so there are options, and you can basically go to a butcher and actually get cheap fat trimmings and get your fat soluble vitamins that way and stuff like that. So there are options of stuff like that. I know it's hard in certain circumstances and all that. You can grow some of your own chickens, poultry, and you can get access to MK4 that way, because they're a very good source of MK4. And I hope you don't subscribe to the bullshit omega-6 garbage out there. I think I've blown all those arguments away. So yeah, there are options like that. Get yourself a pig, grow a pig, in the backyard like they used to do in the past. Whole animal for the whole year and a whole lot of lard as well. That's how they used to do it in the past. Every farmer had a pig or a 2 or 3 to basically, yes. So I don't know what your circumstances are, but there are options. You don't have to basically lock yourself into the standard supermarket food supply, whatever, So yeah, I know the economy's actually taken a hit due to the China trade with Brazil. Yep, I understand. I realise that, and the currency is devalued slightly, which has made, pushed up inflation and caused some food inflation in Brazil. It's a problem for a lot of people in a number of different countries around the world. If other nations at some point jettison the US dollar as a reserve currency, the US will realise what inflation looks like and what other countries have been suffering that don't have a reserve currency. So some of those people that go, oh, let's go back to the gold standard, let's get rid of this. Yes. See what happens. Yes, when you do go back. Yes. Unfortunately, the Americans are caught in their own little trap of cheap money, and now they don't know how to get out of it and expedite themselves. And so they're getting angry with themselves and everyone else. Yes. They need a different type of reset. Reset the bankers, but they're not prepared to reset the bankers because the bankers are very good people. They need to be protected. Anyway, let's move on. And the tech people, oh yes, they're wonderful people. Oh, absolutely wonderful. Actually, the salt of the earth, Yes. A bit lunatic-y, like Elon, he's a bit, but, very wealthy. The wealthiest man on the planet. Yes. Even goddamn junk. Yep. Yes, very expensive. Yes, gone up. I understand. Harry, I'm having trouble sleeping when fasting. Okay, I'm doing 48 once. Well, it's because you basically... Look, most people don't realise sleep is basically... Look, I don't know your other circumstances. What's your lighting? Are you actually affecting your circadian rhythms? Remember, when you actually fast, it's a very stressful type of activity as well. But at the same time, if you basically have circadian mismatch issues, I can tell you the effects of, on your sleep will be magnified. So are you exposing yourself to too much blue light in the evening and have got low melatonin? So, because remember, you need more. Actually, when you fast, you end up actually trying to clear out with autophagy, trying to clear out things. Your sort of requirements for certain things like melatonin seem to basically go up slightly. And that's also because probably you're not getting certain precursors that actually produce melatonin. So there's a lot of those sort of things. So maybe cut back on too much fasting. So in that regard would be my point. What has Lukey got for us today? Yes. More fun. Yes. When you eat ice cream, but they don't revoke your carnival card. I'm still worthy. Oh. Why isn't my face on that? Lukey, where's my face? It probably looks better. I suspect that's for the ladies. He looks better. Yes. Okay. Disappointed. Not that I give a fuck. Anyway, let's move on. This ugly individual will move on. Can't compete with Thor. God. Now, what was I saying? Move on. The only bad thing I could find in my DNA, I'm a carrier for cystic fibrosis genes, DNA says. I should be 12% fatter than healthy weight, and I'm very likely to get diabetes. Well, good for you. No, you're not. These are susceptibilities. They're not actual real. Because at the end of the day, you may be susceptible, but unless you're eating species inappropriate foods to actually activate those gene pathways epigenetically, it's not going to happen. Most of these things happen because people eat inappropriate diets and then they activate those genes. Some of those genes have actually evolved for protective reasons, a bit like sickle cell anemia, which is a protective mechanism against malaria. So there's a lot of things that are actually there. When you actually start researching a lot of these things, they have certain protective reasons why they emerged in certain populations. But then when you eat kibble and you activate them in a different way, then things go to shit. So that's what really is happening, So just keep that in mind. Genes are not your destiny. If you eat species appropriate, you've got no problems. It's like me. I've got an issue with MTHFR, but if I consume enough riboflavin, which is drink my milk, eat my meat, which has plenty of riboflavin, I get double or triple the requirements. Those enzymes will be actually enhanced. That means they'll be brought back to normal levels of dealing with homocysteine. So, that's the thing. Is. Just give me a sec, I'll be back. Okay, somebody at the door. Okay, we're having similar issues in country Queensland. Majority of our cows are being exposed to exported to that state. Every day I see huge amounts of trucks heading for the cattle sales through my town to port. Okay. Yeah, but in Australia, I mean, generally, the food supply is still pretty good. I mean, we produce, what is it about? Australia produces about between 6.5, 7 times its domestic requirement. So we produce far more food than we actually consume as a population, because we're still only about, 25 odd million people in a continent as big as the US, the continental United States. So we produce shitloads of everything. So yes, we need to still export that sort of stuff, because that gives us foreign revenue and foreign reserves and stuff like that. So still need that for the economy. But it's sort of at the moment, some of the stuff probably because people are basically getting it because they can't for financial reasons because of the virus, maybe struggling and have been forced into this sort of situation where they have to basically deal with the ramifications, and they may be needing to destock for financial reasons, for cash flow reasons, potentially. I know farmers do that periodically when they've got cash flow issues or difficulties with repayments or whatever. So that can happen. So I do know a number of people in the farming community. So yes, but I don't know enough about Queensland. I'm in Tasmania, so yeah. G'day, Shell. Yes, thank you for the kisses. Oh, another person who's late. G'day, cat. See, today I turn up on time and everybody else turns up late. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yes. Oh, thinking cup of tea and coffee. You're right. It is, after all, 11 o'clock here, or just slightly after it. Yes, still warm. Thank for that. G'day, Dave from Barcelona. How are you, mate? Hope the weather there is mild as usual. I wonder what's happening with you guys. Are you guys still going to be permitted, now that you're out of Europe, to be, as Brits, to be resident in an EU country, or are they going to require you guys new visa requirements or something? What's happening? Shit. Where am I? StreamYard just jumped. Yep, there I am. So, working out on the rings seems to cause a lot of nervous system fatigue. I defaulted to 3 workouts per week. I couldn't recover fast enough for 4. Just hope kind of improves my recovery. Yeah, look, when you're working, I notice myself when trying to do workouts and stuff like that, and at the same time working like long hours and stuff like that, it's friggin' exhausting, mate. You absolutely feel rat shit. And recovery time, so recovery time is also important because you're still building tissue. So, a lot of people just think that No, you don't plow through. If you're tired, take a break, recover. Your body will love you for it. Don't damage your body too much. Greetings to you. You're an animal. That's a new way of calling him. UA. G'day, Fapnado. Good to see you here. So hard to get fat trims that are grass-fed because grass-fed animals are so lean. Yeah, look, I know. No, it's pretty hard in that regard. There's a lot of, it's not easy, I know. And the launching of this new kibble culture that we're getting, or as I've called it, the sad diet 2.0, or the vegan sad diet, or, I've used a number of different words, but it's the same sort of stuff. It's basically kibble on steroids. And it's bloody concerning that it's sort of making some inroads out there. So it's that's a nice one. That's a real nice one. I better show that. Oh yes. That's a nice sticker. I love animals. They're delicious. Yes, so do I. Yes, they are. Very delicious, might I say. Yes. Yeah, look, it's hard. In certain parts of the world, it's really hard to basically, it depends. If you can get access to a local farmer, sometimes that can help. If you've got a deep fridge, or another way, like I basically, like when I get a lamb, half a lamb or whole lamb, I usually get it with Dad. So we go halves. Because there's two reasons for it. One, storage. There's not enough storage, and the other thing, it's easier that way because you can actually buy cheaper grass-fed meat from a farmer directly, and you can do it with other members of your family, or friends, like a network of friends to buy, sort of bulk and share it. So there's a lot of different ways of actually getting access to stuff like that. So be creative, guys, because you'll have to going forward in the future, because they're going to try and make it more difficult for us to access good food. Just keep that in mind. Stuff grass fed, but butchers don't keep as no one buys it. Yeah, look, you can actually talk to your butcher and actually say, can you hold, certain things? I know they throw them out when they actually butcher an animal and all that. They throw a lot of that sort of stuff. When they cut the different types of meat, they trim things off. But if they know somebody's going to turn up and buy the trimmings off them, or take the trimmings off them, there's two advantages for that. One, they potentially can make some money from it, even though it's not a lot. You can make a deal with them to get a real cheap price, because you're getting it off their hands. But you've got to make it also worthwhile their time, because their labor component to put it all and then into a bag and all that for you, there is a labor component to that. So don't be unreasonable, because they'll say, oh, it's not worth my trouble. They'll do that as well. So you've got to be smart about how to make it reasonable for them. But at the same time, it's a waste product, because they still need to dispose of it. So there are advantages by finding that middle point of negotiation where, you say, well, if you give me so many, I'll come around once a week, get so many kilos of trimmings. What would you offer them? Let them set a price. And if it's too high, then negotiate slightly down. If you see they're sort of starting to get to a point where they're not really interested anymore, that means you're getting too low and they're not going to basically bother. So keep that in mind. It's a matter of knowing how to negotiate and creating a long-term steady relationship, because people like butchers and all that do love regular good customers that basically buy regular stuff from them and don't piss fart them around. It's not like you go to the supermarket, you grab a piece of meat and you go, nah. You know, you go to a butcher, you say, I want this, this, and this. You're a regular, they'll look after you. Anyway, one thing that seems quite possible is that I won't need to consume as much calories on carnivore. That's true as well. I mean, I usually do, you know, just one big steak a day, some eggs, bit of, you know, milk, bit of other dairy, you know, like a brie and stuff like that. I know that's a bit more pricey, but there are cheaper options. So there are different ways of getting certain things. Eggs is one of the cheapest sort of types of protein in most countries, you know. So yes, especially if you're in a small town, a lot of people have. But as I said, the other option is get yourself some chooks, you know, and anyway. Done a video about shitting rocks hard poops that have dairy in the diet. Forgotten things. Yeah, I probably have forgotten to do some of that as well. Actually, there is one video. Well, yeah, I didn't actually entirely forget. There's one video, the Metaflora, which is that bacterial thing that the Germans produce and all that, and that actually reduces constipation. So somewhere in my, can't remember what I titled it. Surprised the majority of the population still think fat is bad. Yes, surprised. Shocking. Yes. It's awful that they still think that. Yes. Yeah, true. Use vinegar instead of, yeah. I recently made some chicken liver pate with duck fat. It was so good. Yes. I actually had some chicken liver pate yesterday. Yes, that was very nice. I should have bought more. Anyway. Asked a local butcher for some pork fat a while ago, and he didn't sound too happy. When I told him I only eat meat, he smiled and went back and cut some for me. There you go. Yes, because he realized, this guy's a regular customer. I better look after him. Exactly. That's good negotiations in an indirect way. Yes. Well done, Richard. I consume them cooked. I occasionally have yolks as in a raw form now and then, and that is in beef tartare. But when I do have raw in beef tartare, they are high quality eggs that I can trust. If I can't get those eggs, because they are the pastured ones that I get from, there are other pastured ones, but I'm not as confident. This company, they're a bit more pricey, but I can actually have them raw without really fearing, where others, there's salmonella, there's other potential risks, and I'm going, nah, just cook them or poach them or stuff like that is the safest way to do it. So I even though I do consume a bit of raw foods, I'm very careful with my sourcing. So I don't recommend it outright, because unless I know you're sourcing, the safest way is just cooked. Also, there are issues with, unless I know your other circumstances with certain your biotin levels, where they are and stuff like that, what your oxalate levels, that could have an effect on those levels. And there's a lot of things, and I don't like to just give blanketed answers. I think it's much safer cooked, because there could be other factors in your physiology, your conditions, your past indiscretions that haven't been resolved, and all sorts of things that could be problematic when you're taking just raw eggs. So, yeah, I think it's safer. Just don't overcook them. Yep. Harry, what would you consider high blood sugar that is a normal BS an hour after a meal? God, I don't know. Let me just, because you're in the US and you guys use a different conversion method. Blood sugar converter. Converter. Yep. Where is that? Yep. I mean, if it's around the 100 mark, is okay in that regard, which is in our conversion. I'll just put it on screen for a sec. In our conversion, let me just increase that. Is 5.6 millimoles. My usually, I think I've shown you guys, it's around the 4. When I'm not having any dairy, I'm just having a steak and all that, usually it's around about 4.6. Millimoles, which is about 83, is what I get. I can go right through my whole. I think I've shown a couple of times when it's at these levels in prior videos and stuff like that. But if it's so, if you're at 6, like 108, unless you're actually consuming something like milk that may have a bit of carbohydrate in it, those sort of things potentially could go up to that level, but it won't stay there long. It'll sort of drop off pretty fast after that, because once it's actually converted in galactose into glycogen and taken up as glucose into glycogen, it usually drops quite dramatically. I've noticed that with milk. It can push things up a bit, but I haven't been at the 6 level or 108 for since I was doing basically paleo or high fat Mediterranean. I'm nowadays, the worst I think was basically the 101 was my worst. Most times I'm sub 5, and sub 5 means 90 or less. So I don't know whether that's, as a transitory thing, whether it's a good or bad thing. There probably are genetics. There are some genetics that actually do play a role in the way you basically store sugar, the way you can, utilize it in terms of glycogen storage and stuff like that. So women probably slower than men because men have got more muscle mass. Yeah, there's a lot of factors. It's an area where we've got a lot of what would you call it? We've got associational data, but we don't have causal data where, the high, but I would say if it's basically, well over 100 or well over 6, then yeah, it's definitely a problem. You're definitely too high. What is driving it? There can be a lot of things that can drive it. I mean, I've seen people who are very stressed, have been exposed to mold and many other factors, and their glucose levels are much higher. And it's not their diet, it's all these other factors. So it's hard to really say what is driving it. Yes, it's not good to have those much higher levels, but, then again, there are times when somebody may be exercising really intense and their blood sugars will go high, especially if they wake up in the morning, that morning effect where your glucose goes up, and then you exercise in a fasted way, you can pronouncedly push it up, but just for a short amount of time, where glucagon is a bit higher and pushes up a bit more because it sort of overshoots. You've got demand driven, where you're exercising in a fasted way and glucagon is up and will overcompensate and push the gluconeogenic sort of pathway a bit higher. So you'll end up creating more sugar, but that won't last. It'll actually be absorbed in as glycogen, taken up very quickly, and that will drop off quite substantially. If it stays up, then you've got a problem, but usually it doesn't. If you're on a species appropriate diet, unless you've got some derangement or dysregulation that needs to be looked into. But yeah, I would say anything above 90, which is 5, is probably, but depending, if you're at this sort of level, it's, less, where if you're on this sort of level, 108, it's definitely a problem. But 101, probably not, depending on what you're eating. I've got to 5.6, which is basically 101, but at the time, I was actually consuming, far more dairy and stuff like that, and it pushed up to that range. So I was getting more, like I was doing yogurt and dairy and stuff like that. So there was a lot of dairy sugar in there. So, but it didn't last very long because that was after exercising, and it sort of came down after that. By the evening, it was below 5, which is below 90. So, I don't think it's a big issue if it's transitory for a short amount of time. If it's persistently high, then it's a problem. Then there is some problem there. Yeah. But, yes, talking about glucose and my thoughts about HbA1c. Scotty's actually putting there being a predictive carnivore due to long red cell. Yep, that's also another factor as well. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yep, that's another factor that can play as well. We notice that in the keto and carnivore community as well, that sort of thing. The turnover of red blood cells. Yep, that's true as well. So there are a lot of different factors. When you're on a carnivore or keto type diet, your body works very differently. It's sort of trying to muscle spare. So you reverse T3 goes up slightly. On the other hand, you're trying to preserve glucose for the brain and for the red blood cells. So that sort of peripheral type resistance actually happens. which is fine. It's not happening at the adipose site, which is good because that's releasing fat, but it's happening in terms of sugar uptake, so it's still taking it. The cells are not resistant. They're not Rand or cycle resistant to not take in anything. They are basically just sugar resistant, which is a good thing, because if that was to happen, if that little amount of sugar was to be taken out of the system, well, then the red blood cells and the little bit that the brain requires, certain processes, well, then you'd be in trouble. So it's a normal physiological mechanism. So nothing to worry about. So yeah, there's that side as well. Thanks, Harry. What's your answer, husband? Blood pressure is lower than what it was, but has been 94, 115 most days. Sometimes he's reading, it's very frustrating, no dairy here. Okay. So it's a bit all over the place. There could be other factors. There could be sort of an electrolyte issue. It seems like it. Sometimes I find, because the fluids and electrolytes, the key ones, due to the way the osmotic regulation of the actual, these channels, that calcium, potassium, sodium channels, taurine plays a big role in regulating them. So sometimes by just increasing the amount of taurine in your diet can actually improve the sort of blood pressure situation as well. So salt and taurine, really good to improve blood pressure in terms of regulation. So yes. Yes, we're down to half an hour, just letting you guys know before I have to fuck off. Yes. More banter. Oh, yes, he's a bad boy. And Uncle Harry's really bad, unreliable, absolutely fucking unreliable. He should give up his day job. Sodium hold onto other mineral levels and maintain balance. Well, because your body, basically, there are those sort of gradients between your intra and extracellular fluids. And if you've got too much potassium on one side and not enough sodium on the other side, that gradient will be disturbed. And as a consequence, because when it comes to sodium, because a lot of the sodium and a lot of the minerals the ones that are in the blood, get basically recycled in the kidneys, that's where blood pressure and also the different types of hormones can be activated through the renin-angiotensin system to basically try and maintain all that sort of stuff. So sodium tends to do the trick, because you've got a really restrictive rate of excretion of all the other minerals. Go and see my other videos and it explains it all. I'm not going to do that now. And it explains also. And a lot of the regulation is in a video that I haven't made. Taurine plays a big role in regulating these electrolytes. So it's probably a reason why as people get older, their taurine biosynthesis drops and always overused due to methylation issues or oxalate. And so, yeah, they need more in the diet. So, yes. So basically, if you lower your sodium levels, the other minerals will have to come down to get into homeostasis. And you'll notice other effects of things not functioning properly. So get your salt in. We used to consume 10 times the salt that we consume nowadays. And the only thing that actually raises blood pressure, as I showed in that other little video, is not the actual sodium, the chloride part, because I showed that even potassium chloride will raise blood pressure, only by a very small amount, but it is the main factor. So they got it wrong. Yes. So you can check that out as well. It's the videos on my channel, things to look at and learn about the different minerals and how they're managed. And there'll be more in future. So stop fearing salt, basically. Shorter stream. I'm tired as well. Good. That means I won't feel that guilty by leaving early. I have grass-fed Australian beef. Thank you for supporting us. At my local store for $5 cheaper a pound than local grass-fed. Find that wrong with that picture. Well, we're a bit lucky down here. If you take a look at some parts in Australia, like up in cattle land in Queensland and all that, they've got these massive areas. I mean, it's like a little, like one farm, I think, is so big, it's like a little state in America. That's how big. So you can imagine how many head of cattle. It's economies of scale, guys. Australia has massive farms, that are used, when we're talking about cattle, these are cattle ranches. They go out with helicopters and actually, the cattle are out there just eating, and they patrol them with basically helicopters, and they bring them in with helicopters. So it's a completely different sort of setup. And that is why they can be competitive. A lot of them also, they bring in a lot of labor from other countries around the region, like your Mexicans we get a lot of Southeast Asian and the Pacific Islanders with contracts from those countries. So the wages aren't as high in a sense. And so they can actually, they're basically exploiting regional labor. That labor also is getting the advantage of being able to remittance back to their country. So for them, it's, they're getting more wages than what they would get back home for the same amount of work. So they don't mind, and they're not actually domestic citizens. They actually get flown in under contract to work for a certain period of time and then flown back to their country after the season is over. And yes, it's probably something you guys aren't aware of. And that actually keeps the labor cost component down, which means that we can still, produce it at a competitive price. It's actually now that industry's taken a bit of a hit. This is why in Queensland, can't remember who was earlier saying that they were actually, I think was it Tammy? I think that they're actually, and also that's a bit of a problem for them. They're not getting enough labor to basically deal with a lot of the agricultural products and stuff like that. So yes, they have to send it as livestock out of the country as well in some cases. There's a lot of, there's different supply chains and different pricing and all sorts of things and all that. Remember, there's also the currency exchange. So in terms of the Australian dollar compared to the US dollar being higher, or the, Canadian or whatever, you're in Canada, there's, that side of the exchange rate side of things. There's a lot of factors that play why something may be cheaper or not. So I've given you most of them. Anyway, I was brewing oxalate juice. Oh, great. Nothing. It is sort of low oxalate. I mean, if you really want to push it, just throw a bit of, spinach into it. Richard, enhance it. Yes. Prices of meat in Australia had skyrocketed the past year. They claim it's part because of the drought, trying to restock and rain. There's a whole lot of reasons. Remember, a lot of our local meat production is also there's a lot that's being done in the northern part of the country. And so it's actually cheaper to put it on a ship, take it to Darwin or one of the northern Queensland ports and put it on one of the ships and ship it out, than basically to drive it on trucks to the southern states in Australia, where your labour costs are much higher. Because you can only get so many on a truck, head of cattle, so the labour cost goes up. Where if you put on a ship, you've probably only got 1 or 2 people keeping an eye on the cattle, and there's thousands of them on one ship. So there's all these cost differentials based on labour costs, transportation costs, blah blah blah. It's a more complex picture, guys. It's not as simple as a lot of people make it out to be. When you look at the economics, it's the reason why it's cheaper to basically export gas out of Australia than actually sell it to Australians, because we don't have a massive network of pipelines. So the US, because of the Second World War, built massive amounts of pipelines in the country, and so they can move around oil and gas much cheaper, where Australia doesn't have the same level of pipelines in the country to move it as competitively around. You know, it's the same thing like the cost of water in Tasmania was much more expensive. And a couple of years back, one of the governments actually set up an irrigation scheme. I actually was involved in doing some of the plans for that. And basically, those irrigation schemes, what they did was they basically provided a lot of they reduced the cost of getting water to a lot of farmers to do a lot of things. And so as a consequence, their cost structure came down, and certain farmers from other parts of the country actually came down to Tasmania to invest in certain things like, wine and other stuff like that, because they had better access to water or whatever else. So there's a lot of factors that are at play. It's not as simple as some people make it out to be. That's another reason why I like Garland Farm, JD and Garland Farms, great information, very supportive. I usually share a lot of his stuff because it's so good. He's got such a good understanding of the industry in the US and all the different parts, all the cost structures, what happens, the proportions of certain things. I just wish more carnivores in the carnivore community used his information, because it's really solid information about the input costs and different things, the waste products that are coming out of different agricultural production systems. A lot of this sort of stuff most people don't know about, and a lot of people go out there claiming all sorts of bullshit and all that based on spurious just opinions, no evidence whatsoever. And that's what I like about JD. He puts out really good, solid information for the US population. It's just unfortunate that many in the US population don't utilize that information. In the carnivore community over there, he sort of feels a bit isolated. I can understand. It's unfortunate, but that's just the reality. His relationships with certain people aren't as crash hot, but yes, shit happens. Yes. Well, you guys that are in the US, my subscribers, you should basically support JD. He's a good bloke. I like JD. He's a really good bloke and well switched on, understands a lot of the stuff in the industry, understands the politics, understands the sort of all these elements that most people don't, and are very easily deceived by kibble propaganda. Anyway, let's move on. Yes. The other thing is, I've never met an Australian farmer that hasn't complained about something. And I know quite a few of them because they're good friends of mine anyway. And it's hard, they've got the banks trying to screw them sometimes. You got the big supermarket chains, Coles and Woolworths in Australia, trying to screw them and making their life very difficult. And also the supply chain is problematic. The government has allowed certain foreign ownership and certain corporations to come in where they vertically integrate themselves. And what they do is they screw the farmers out of stuff on the cheap, and then also screw the country out of taxes and sell it at supposedly at a loss to an overseas parent company that then basically makes all the profits. So it's yes, there's a bit of that shenanigans and goes as well. And yes, unfortunately, our governments haven't really done much to deal with some of that shit. Anyway, oh, good. That's good, Tammy. Oh, as he turned up. Oh, God. Oh, late, mate. Absolutely late. God. Now you'll see how things deteriorate and fall apart. Oh, God. Oops. Okay. See, Blinky turns up and StreamYard goes to shit, and I lose a whole lot of other comments. So, well. Shit happens. Oh, yes. The people eating tasty animals. Oh, is it well, or slaughtering tasty animals. Yep, they are. Yes, actually, they are the supreme kill cult. I mean, they've got one of the best slaughter businesses in the US, Peter. Yes, they are the pinnacle of slaughtering, It's humane slaughtering. Put them out of their misery, I say, but don't eat them, is the Peter model. Yes. G'day, Tom. So what's your thoughts on early infant introduction of allergenic foods to prevent allergies? I don't know enough about it. So I know a bit, and it is medical advice. Remember, I'm trying to avoid these sort of questions, mate. The YouTubia mafia is actually observing, the all-seeing eye of the YouTubia mafia. But generally speaking, there's a lot of other carnivores out there that basically deal with this sort of stuff directly. A lot of populations do introduce meat fairly early with no problems whatsoever. The mother sometimes chews the meat and then gives the meat to the infant, and it's usually about, I think, for a lot of these sort of things at 6 months onwards, it's not really a big issue as long as it's species appropriate foods. You're not going to get really any issues. There are reasons sometimes where there could be epigenetic reasons. So a mother's eating an inappropriate diet has activated certain genes in the child and made the child more vulnerable to allergies or anaphylactic effects. So it's because these things, it's like the Pottinger's cat. It's a sort of intergenerational, and I don't like recommending any of this sort of stuff or saying exactly what my opinion on these things are, is because I'm saying, as a mother, what were you doing for the last 9 months and before that? And as a father, the sperm donor, how were you eating? So there's a lot of factors at play, and what potential epigenetically may have been turned on or off. And so it's an area that I don't like jumping into. I usually say to people, well, you can get everything. You can get taurine, you can get selenium, you can get everything from the actual breast milk. Try to maximize the breast milk for as long as possible. One, it's good for the mother because it actually reduces her weight and brings her back to a leaner weight, which is healthy. And at the same time, it also provides a very nutrient-dense food source for the child. So you don't have to rush some of the other stuff. And also, if the child's been on a species-appropriate diet for longer, it's probably, and the parents as well, it's going to be safer to introduce these things earlier. If they haven't, probably not. What's their gut microbiome like? So the beneficial bacteria. Do the parents have a good microbiome, especially the mother? It's so fraught. It's, these sort of questions are like double-edged swords. If you say something, you could get your head chopped off because you basically are recommending something to somebody who's got a really bad gut microbiome, transfer that really bad gut microbiome to the child, and has made the child vulnerable in some way. So I usually say that if you fix the parents that are going to bring the child into existence, then the child is going to be less vulnerable to these things. But that's a hard thing to say, to turn around to a parent and say, oh, you're going to become a parent. Well, why don't you start eating some organ meats and, get rid of all that kibble and do this and that and whatever. Yeah, it's a hard thing to sell in that regard. And that's why I don't like recommending, because usually people lie to me. I've had countless occasions where, and I go, well, I've seen you eat this other stuff. Oh, I sometimes eat this stuff. I go, yeah. And then they want recommendations when they're doing a whole lot of other inappropriate things. And I'm going, oh, yeah, I'm not that forthcoming. And I sort of stay away from the child stuff completely, because it's just fraught with so much risks when it comes to the YouTubia world in that regard. But I say, if you're doing things which are species appropriate, the child is getting, meats and organ meats and stuff like that. I mean, my mother fed me meats and brains and kidneys and all these organ meats at a young age. I don't remember getting anything like, peanuts or anything like that at a young age. It was more these sort of meats, animal products, eggs and stuff like that. And it was sort of poached eggs or softly boiled eggs with the top cut off, and it was all the yolk, which we had as little children, those sort of things. But it's in a couple of months, it's sort of like you need to basically be on milk for quite a few months, and hopefully the mother is also eating an appropriate diet through that period to maximize the nutrient density for the child, getting enough B vitamins, because those B vitamins will also provide more material for the beneficial bacteria. So if you're getting vitamin D and the B vitamins, and the mother's transferring that to the child, then the child is going to be healthier. That means they'll have a better gut microbiome. You need a healthy gut microbiome as a child to basically be have less issues of these sort of things. So, a lot of young kids, they don't get the appropriate stuff. They get born, and then their parents, they get sickly. They take them to the doctor. They get whacked on a whole lot of antibiotics, and it's just like a vicious cycle. These kids are so vulnerable and so weak. They're very prone to leaky gut and all this sort of stuff, because they're already, when you're born, you do have leaky gut. You know what I mean? So you have to wait. I can't remember how many months until those mucosal layers. How quickly they close is also dependent on vitamin D. So vitamin D is very important in terms of, that sort of thing. But, so because all the actual, your mucosal layers and all that, all the actual inside has a lot of vitamin D that actually, seals this sort of stuff off. So, yeah. That's the sort of stuff you need, good nutrition for the parents. And that will it's particularly the mother, and that will transfer to the child. That's, the sort of stuff. But I don't like recommending this sort of stuff. There are other people that are basically in the carnivore community that are doctors. You should approach them. And dietitians like Mary that are registered, and they will basically give you a proper sort of advice how to do it, and consider any deficiencies or any other problems with yourself. Anyway, per head still, blah, 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 pretty high. Yep. was vitamin C always associated with collagen? Well, it's important for basically, hydroxyproline and hydroxylysine, the conversion. That's what it is. But if you're eating a species-appropriate diet, you usually get a lot of that and you don't need as much. So that's pretty much it. And that yep, not a problem. When they arise again, I will nurse you. Whatever. Didn't really pick up on that. We're down to 10 minutes. Meat prices have risen. Okay, that's another. I think I've covered that stuff about meat and prices. And Drew is cancelled. Not sure what that's about. G'day, Alex. Good to see you, mate. Is that the price? €3.50. That's cheap. Yep, it is. It is. Don't forget to hit the Thistle. Blinky. Stop being bad, Blinky. Stop being bad. Try that. Now cannot get the correction fluid off the screen. Not sure what that is about. Sometimes I have them for free. Yep. If you got access, it's good. It's good. The trimmings, I suspect. More about the trimmings and the trimmings. Fair. I'm back otherwise. Can't sleep. Hi. G'day, Neff. Good to see you. And I'm down to 8 minutes, so I'm sort of going through this sort of ratchety fast. Eggs, pasteurized temp, easily to, yep. Okay. I'm okay. Harry, I'm okay for calcium now. I can't tolerate dairy or eggs. I eat beef, liver, beef trimmings, salmon, chicken, occasionally fish, chicken skin. Yeah, chicken skin's got, it's pretty good as well. Collagen, stuff like that. Yeah, your body, if you're eating meat, your body will extract more out of the can. I've been eating store-bought eggs for 10 years. Never an issue. Yep. So, look. If you're basically, getting enough, because there's biotin in also in the yolk. If you're getting enough in, it's less of a problem. Depends on a lot of factors as well. Genetics as well. There's biotin pathways. Also, there can be depletion of biotin due to oxalate as well. It's complicated. Weird lamb. Yes. Oh, mate. New Zealand. There's more sheep than humans. Why wouldn't it be cheaper? Spent the whole weekend. Yep, whatever. Yep. No questions. Oh, where's that fucking going? No questions. Watching out. That was the thing that we talked about earlier. Thank you for the answer. Husband blood pressure. Very frustrating. Yep. We covered that. Yep. Yes. Oh, okay. That was blood sugar. Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were talking about because blood sugar. Sorry, I mistook that for blood pressure. Yeah. Yep, a bit of a fuck up on my part. Blood sugar, yeah, sometimes reads 130, 170. That is high, that it's jumping up to those levels. Send me an email. What is he eating? So I know what he's eating. What were you saying down here? He used to have readings of 200. It seems like basically, Shell, his probably pancreas is packing it in to be that high. So he's probably got, either some severe pancreatitis or some pancreatic sort of issue. So it could be for a lot of reasons. You can get my father's blood sugar jump dramatically. And sorry, I didn't, because I'm just hurrying today and I'm all over the friggin' joint. I put that on because, your gallbladder, it requires for bile and for the flow of the bile and to get rid of bile, to generate proper bile salts to actually emulsify that sort of stuff and keep it flowing through so it doesn't block the ducts that go into the pancreas. So has he got any pain under his, rib cage or anything like that? Sometimes if it's only sludge, you won't, but it can block back some of the pancreatic enzymes. And if that happens, what happens is it really fucks up the relationship between your ability to properly, regulate insulin and stuff like that. It can really fuck up the beta cells. So taurine really clears that up. And I usually recommend people go up to 6 milligrams of taurine to clear out the sludge and help any fibrotic tissue that may have arisen in the liver or the pancreas to be restored 3 minutes ago. Anyway, yep, I hope that helps. What was that? Anything else? MMPs outside the fat-soluble vitamins? No, they're pretty much the big players in regulating matrix metalloproteinases, though, collagen-degrading enzymes. They're the big players. Vitamin D in the lungs in particular, MK4 in the skin and other parts, and retinol in the skin and many other parts. So they're the big players, very important in that regard. Yep. Breathing, grounding, blood yeah, that can help, but we weren't talking about blood pressure, blood sugar. I fucked up. Yes, and that is very extremely high. Low carb at the moment. So much time to blow. You blowing something? Blinky. Okay, his blood pressure is actually pretty good. Yep, it's just a blood glucose. Yeah, it's a pancreas thing. Definitely. Yep, definitely pancreas related thing. It could be due to gallbladder. It could be due to, because we all ate shit, and I've suffered, the symptoms of gallbladder issues and stuff like that. My father ended up in hospital, nearly lost his gallbladder due to, and had severe pancreatitis. So, yep. And the old boy's 86 this year. Yep, he's unfortunately in the last couple of weeks, he lost his twin brother. So I'll do next week. I'll actually show you the picture differences, and you'll be shocked the differences between my father and his twin brother. Yeah, it's been a bit. It was a bit hard for him. Been a bit hard for also my other uncle as well, losing one of their brothers. So yeah, it's and it happened around Christmas, New Year, that period, just wrong period to happen. So yeah, a few things have sort of family-wise have happened recently that have thrown us about a bit. But yeah, yes. we're coping. Yep. Anyway, I've got to the end. Thanks, Joel. I'm just reading the bottom parts here because I'm sort of, he explains right side under, complains about. Yeah, definitely giving, that was right at the bottom here. Where is it? Yep. Milk thistle helps as well, and so does choline. Vitamin C is not important. Just milk thistle is really good for the liver, the FXR enzyme, which is involved in the bile sort of thing. So, but the big player, choline, exporter fat, also helps a bit with bile and the gallbladder. But the big player is definitely taurine. But don't go immediately up to 6 grams. Go slowly. So, and that's a giveaway. That's gallbladder. Yeah, that right side blood. Yeah, that's definitely a gallbladder thing. And it's definitely, basically, he was probably less carnivorous in the past, less on that sort of side. And what happens is gallbladder issues. A lot of us today are endemic because of gut malabsorption and all these other issues due to our past indiscretions with plants. And the way to clear out the gallbladder and the gall sludge is with taurine. But don't go too high very quickly because of blood pressure issues. Go 1 gram, then the next week 2 grams, then 3 grams, and build yourself up to 6 grams. And do that for a couple of months and try to resolve and clear that up. I am going to be doing a video that's going to be covering a lot of this sort of stuff and explaining some of the other parts and elements. Easy. Okay. Well, good for him. I'm about to get out of here. Anyway, so yep. Thanks, Shell. Yeah, it's bit. He's better. He's better now with it about it. So yep. You're welcome. Not a problem. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Dad's twin brother. So it was a bit hard for him, Angela, but he's a strong boy, so he'll cope. He'll be okay. So my uncle's been coming up and chatting with him as well. So they've been spending a bit of time together, which is good. So they've probably been supporting each other. So that's good. So yeah. Oh look, going out together, they're doing more, brotherly things, which is good. I'm glad they are. So that's what brothers are for, to sort of support each other when they have a loss in their family. Anyway, yep, not a problem, mate. I am basically out of here. I'm running a tad bit late, and I was going to go just a bit earlier, but anyway, shit happens. Yeah, I know. Oh, tell me, Blinky. Anyway, guys, take care, and I will see all of you guys next week, and we'll be back to regular time, in terms of 3 hours, a regular slot. Not so yeah. So basically, yes. Thanks, Mandy. Yep. And I'm out of here. See you guys. See you next week.